Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given the integrated nature of livestock markets across England and Wales, farmers in my constituency are still facing challenges from restrictions linked to blue tongue. Could the Secretary of State update the House on what discussions have occurred with DEFRA and the Welsh Government about minimising disruption to cross-border livestock movements arising from blue tongue testing and certification requirements?
I thank my honourable friend for his question, and he's absolutely right to raise the integrated nature of livestock markets across Wales and England. And I'd like to reassure him that this government is working together with the Welsh Government on all animal health related issues, including blue tongue. I regularly speak to my colleague Hugh Davis, Cabinet Secretary for Rural Affairs, on these matters. Through this collective effort, we've ensured that livestock movements can continue. But I will stress once again the importance of being vigilant, vaccinating, sourcing responsibly and testing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What assessment has the Minister made of the value of a single UK-wide digital livestock traceability system to support Welsh farmers and reduce welfare and compliance risks for Northern Ireland processors who rely on Welsh farmers?
Minister.
I'm sorry, it's very hard to hear that question, but let me assure him that our new SPS agreement with the EU will facilitate the smooth flow of agri-food and plants from Wales to Northern Ireland, protecting the UK's internal market, reducing costs to business and improving consumer choice.
Question number 4, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Welsh language broadcasting plays a critical role in shaping Welsh identity and culture. S4C has played a vital role in helping revitalise the language and ensures it's kept relevant amongst the ever-growing number of people who speak it, not just in Wales but around the world. Their essential contribution is reflected in the BBC Charter Review Green Paper published just last month.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Welsh does very well out of broadcasting, but I'm glad the Western Isles are well represented on the airwaves just now. The standout star of Traitors, this season's Traitors, is Stephen Libby from the Isle of Lewis. I think he's going to win it this weekend. I'm glad Gaelic has its place in the government's Green Paper on broadcasting, but the UK government gives S4C £7.5 million a year to help in digital broadcasting. BBC Alapa, the Scottish channel, gets nothing. Will the Minister join me in my efforts to get the UK government to re-engage with Gaelic broadcasting as a cultural and economic dynamo?
Minister.
Well, I think we're all glued to the traitors this season, and with the exodus from the Tory benches to reform, it's hard not to believe that we're actually living through real-life traitors. But I thank my honourable friend for his question. Welsh and Gaelic were the first languages of their nations and have a strong social, cultural and economic significance. As a Welsh speaker myself, I know just how important that is. This government recognises the contribution MG Alba makes to the lives of Gaelic speakers across Scotland and the UK. And my honourable friend will be aware of the BBC Charter Review launched in December, considering how the BBC can best support minority languages, including Gaelic.
The Minister will be aware that Ofcom is currently consulting on a draft code of practice for the prominence of public service broadcasters in the digital platforms. Does she agree that it's essential that SPLNEC is included in any measures that come out of that consultation so that they do have greater prominence on smart TVs and other digital platforms?
Thank you. My honourable friend across the benches raises a very, very important point, and one which I've regularly discussed with S4C and my colleagues in the Department for Culture, Media and Sport. It is fantastic news that last week the BBC and S4C announced plans for a major new streaming partnership, giving greater prominence for S4C on the iPlayer. But I know there's more to do on this issue, and I will continue to work with my colleagues and broadcasters on this matter.
Chair of the Committee, Ruth Jones.
Mr. Speaker, the Welsh Affairs Select Committee took evidence from the CEO and Chair of S4C last week, and it was good to hear their plans for the future. So what discussions has the Minister had with S4C and other broadcasters to further the development of the Welsh language across Wales and beyond?
Minister.
I thank my honourable friend for her question, raising the importance and sustainability of S4C. And it is that is crucially reflected in the BBC Charter Review launched just in December. And I will continue having those conversations with my colleagues here in Welsh Government, but also with the broadcasters themselves.
Rachel Taylor.
Question 5, please, Mr. Speaker.
Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With your permission, I'll answer questions 5 and 6 together. This government is absolutely determined to improve the cost of living for families across Wales and the whole of the UK. It's why we're benefiting 69,000 children in Wales by scrapping the 2-child limit. It's why we're slashing household energy bills by an average of £150 a year, and it's why we're again increasing the national minimum and living wage, building on the previous increase which boosted the incomes of up to 160,000 workers in Wales.
Rachel Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The latest interest rate cut, the 6th since Labour formed this government, is great news for mortgage holders in Wales, in North Warwickshire and Bedworth and across the UK. Bringing down the cost of family mortgages by almost £1,400 a year. Would the Secretary of State update the House on how this government's policies are helping to strengthen our economy and improve the cost of living as a result?
Secretary of State.
Can I thank my honourable friend for her question? She's absolutely right, Mr. Speaker. This government is supporting people across Wales and across the UK with the cost of living. Since we came into government, households who are now taking out a new mortgage are saving around £1,400 a year on their mortgage repayments. We've increased the state pension by 4.8%, and that will take effect in April, benefiting 700,000 pensioners across Wales, and uprating universal credit standard allowance by over 6%, the first ever permanent real terms increase, benefiting 320,000 households in Wales.
Mr. Speaker, the cost of living is still a major concern for my constituents in Llanelli, so I very much welcome the decision by this Labour government to give householders £150 help with their domestic energy bills. But can the Secretary of State explain exactly who is eligible and when and how they will receive this money?
Can I thank my honourable friend for her question? Energy bills are a significant issue for people across the country, and that's why from April this year all households will see an average £150 reduction in costs on their energy bills thanks to this Labour government. Energy suppliers will pass on the savings automatically to households, and she will have seen today the launch of our Warm Homes Plan, the £15 billion fund, and in Wales this will make grants available for households to replace gas boilers with heat pumps, and it will mean stronger standards on landlords who privately rent homes so they are safer, warmer and more affordable to run.
Ms Davies, Shadow Secretary of State.
Wales could be disproportionately affected by US tariffs, which could be a challenge for many Welsh businesses. The words of Labour First Minister Baroness Eluned Morgan in her correspondence to the Prime Minister. Lots of talk about traitors, but Mr. Speaker, we, the Conservatives, over the past 27 years, are the ones who seriously scrutinised, challenged and exposed the failings of Welsh Labour, clearly propped up by Plaid and the Lib Dems. So will she confirm it's the two fabled Labour governments who simply cannot work together who are just making the cost of living and unemployment worse in Wales?
Secretary of State.
Wages are up. Wages are up. Inward investment is up. Inactivity is down on the year. Unemployment is down on the year. And we've had 6 cuts in interest rates so that families taking out a new mortgage are £1,400 a year better off than they were under the Tories.
Sean Davis.
Number 7, sir.
Minister.
As two governments, we are committed to working together to keep cross-border arrangements fair, transparent and patient-centred. I'm proud that last year's spending review saw the largest financial settlement in the history of devolution. Working in partnership, we will fix the NHS and make it fit for the future.
John Davis.
Mr. Speaker, the incredible Lincoln Davis Cancer Charity provides life-saving and life-changing cancer care, working with the NHS to support patients across Wales, Telford and wider Shropshire. The charity and the NHS has plans to double capacity of cancer treatment. I am proud to support this campaign. Will the Secretary of State and the Minister meet with me to discuss how she, the Welsh Government and the Welsh NHS can work together to double cancer treatment across our area?
I thank my honourable friend for raising the important work of the Lincoln Davis charity. I understand their appeal is seeking to raise £5 million to grow cancer care awareness in his area. This government is committed to catching cancer earlier and treating it faster. And I'd be very happy to meet my honourable friend to discuss the charity's fundraising campaign.
There you go.
Paris Health Board has been categorising the needs of its patients based on cost rather than on their clinical need, and that's causing a real problem for the Robert James and Agnes Hunt Orthopaedic Hospital in my constituency and the associated Headley Court Veterans Centre, because they need to prioritise patients based on clinical need and not on whether Paris Health Board will pay for them this year. What is the Secretary of State for Wales doing about that problem with Paris Health Board, so that we're treating patients based on their clinical need and in a way that my hospital trust can manage?
Minister.
I thank the honourable member for raising this, and I certainly can write to her with the details on the Powys Health Board and what we're doing, but I can assure her that this government is committed to working with the Welsh Government to ensure cross-border arrangements are fair and transparent and focused on patient needs. This is two Labour governments working together in partnership and delivering together.
Before we come to Prime Minister's questions, may I extend a warm welcome to the President of the Storting, the Norwegian Parliament, and his delegation, who are with us in the gallery today. We start with questions to Prime Minister Dr. Jeevan Sanda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question number one.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In recent days, I've spoken extensively to our international allies, including European leaders and others, the US and NATO. We will continue to engage constructively to resolve issues, particularly relating to international security, applying the principles and values that I set out on Monday. Mr. Speaker, in addition this week, the Government has announced a landmark investment to support children with special educational needs, overhauled our water system, and today launched a £15 billion plan to create warm homes. At home and abroad, this Labour government is delivering for the British people. This meeting I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We face an affordability crisis in this country. In the short term, our dependence on fossil fuels leads to a rise in energy bills, and in the longer term, the aftershocks of Thatcher mean there are not enough good non-graduate jobs. And that's why today's Warm Homes plan is such good news. Making life affordable, batteries, solar, home insulation, getting bills down, wages rising, making life affordable. But we must go further. So can I ask the Prime Minister if they would do even more to make sure that life is affordable for my...
The Prime Minister.
Can I thank my honourable friend? I know how much he cares about making life affordable. Mr. Speaker, we're taking £150 off energy bills. That's £300 for the 6 million poorest families, including almost 3,700 households in his constituency. The Warm Homes plan we're announcing today is the biggest ever public investment in upgrading British homes. It will lift 1 million households out of fuel poverty, tackling the cost of living. That's the difference a Labour government makes.
Kemi, Badenoch.
Mr. Speaker, can I welcome the Prime Minister following our lead on children accessing social media? In particular, can I thank the Shadow Education Secretary, 61 Labour MPs and the Greater Manchester Mayor for forcing him to think again. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister and I agree. The future of Greenland should only be decided by the people of Greenland. When the Prime Minister made this point to President Trump on Monday, did the President agree or disagree?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, engaging constructively on international security matters hugely, particularly when it comes to security in the Arctic, and that's the context in which this discussion is going on in relation to Greenland. As we engage constructively, I have made my position clear on our principles and values. The first of those is that the future of Greenland is for the people of Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark alone. The second is that threats of tariffs to pressurise allies are completely wrong. Mr. Speaker, we will continue to engage constructively. I've had many international calls in recent days, and the Prime Minister of Denmark is coming to the United Kingdom tomorrow for bilateral talks. But I do want to be clear with the House. I will not yield, Britain will not yield on our principles and values about the future of Greenland under threats of tariffs. And that is my clear position.
Kemi Badenoch.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very glad to hear the Prime Minister say that. We all know that the people of Greenland do not want to be ruled by America. But does he agree that just as those in Greenland should decide their own future, so should the Chagossians?
Mr. Speaker, I've made out my position on Greenland absolutely clear on Monday and a moment ago. President Trump deployed words on Chagos yesterday that were different to his previous words of welcome and support when I met him in the White House. He deployed those words yesterday for the express purpose of putting pressure on me and Britain in relation to my values and principles on the future of Greenland. Mr. Speaker, he wants me to yield on my position, and I'm not going to do so. Given that that was his express purpose, I'm surprised the Leader of the Opposition has jumped on the bandwagon. I had understood her position. Mr. Speaker, I had understood her position to be that she supported the government's position on the future of Greenland. Now she appears to support words by President Trump to undermine the government's position on the future of Greenland. She's chosen naked opportunism over the national interest.
Mr. Speaker, we'll note that when I asked him what the President told him, he couldn't tell us. Now he expects us to believe he knows what's going on in President Trump's mind. Let me remind him, his Deputy Prime Minister, then Foreign Secretary, used to say that if President Trump didn't like the deal, it wouldn't go ahead. And let's look at what President Trump actually said. The Chagos deal is an act of great stupidity and a sign of total weakness. We didn't need President Trump to tell us that. We've been saying this for 12 months. And let's remind the Prime Minister, President Trump thought that we were doing this, that the Prime Minister is doing this for money. The Prime Minister is giving away territory we own and paying £35 billion for the privilege. Why doesn't he just scrap this terrible deal and put the money into our armed forces?
Prime Minister.
The words from President Trump were expressly intended to put pressure on me to yield on my principles. What he said about Chagos was literally in the same sentence as what he said about Greenland. That was his purpose. And the future of Greenland is a binary issue that is splitting the world at the moment with material consequences. I've been clear and consistent in my position on the future of Greenland. The future is for Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark alone. The Leader of the Opposition has taken 3 positions in 10 days. 10 days ago, she said Greenland was, in her words, a second-order issue. 4 days ago, she said she supported our position on Greenland. Now she's backing arguments intended to undermine our position, Britain's position on Greenland. This is an important national moment, and yet again the Leader of the Opposition has shown she is incapable of rising to it.
I've already told him we agree on Greenland. I'm asking about the Chagos deal. That money, that £35 billion, should go to the armed forces. Mr. Speaker, the world is changing. We are in a very different place, the most dangerous international environment since the end of the Cold War. Last week, the head of the armed forces, not me, the head of the armed forces warned that our military faces a £28 billion shortfall. Is he right?
Prime Minister!
Mr. Speaker, I'm proud we're spending more on defence than any time since the last Labour government. The Strategic Defence Review is back the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the Cold War. That's £270 billion this Parliament, making defence an engine of growth. That is a stark contrast. Ben Wallace, the longest-serving Conservative Defence Secretary, openly admitted that under their watch our armed forces were hollowed out.
Order, order, order. Mr. Bowitt and Mr. Cartledge, it is continuous week in, week out, and there's a couple over here who will also be going out for a cup of tea with you. Please, calm it down, or you know the consequence. Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, they shout on a Wednesday and they defect on a Thursday. The loudest shouter used to be the former Shadow Justice. We should take a note of who's shouting most loudly this week.
Kemi Badenoch.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister wants to talk about defections. Let me tell him that when I had someone undermining my party, I sacked him. If he sacked... Mr. Speaker, if he sacked...
We're going to get through this Prime Minister's questions. I want to hear the Leader of the Opposition and I want to hear the Prime Minister. Those who don't may leave the chamber. Kemi Badenoch.
Mr. Speaker, we all know that if he sacked everyone undermining his party, his front bench would be empty. But these questions I'm asking, these questions, well, jokes aside, these questions are about our national interest. These questions are about our national interest. We support our armed forces in every possible way. Later today, my party will vote to protect our veterans from unfair prosecution. He is ordering his MPs to vote against them. In our national interest, and for the sake of all the brave people in the armed forces, past, present and future, will the Prime Minister do the right thing and vote in support of our veterans, not against them?
Mr. Speaker, she's claiming strength. She read the guy's defection letter and then at that point decided to sack him. What was she going to do? Correct the typos and give it back to him? She should have sacked him when he made disgraceful comments about faces in Birmingham, and she failed to do so. And she smiled, saying it's a good thing she's cleared out, a good thing there's fewer Tory MPs. The rest of the country agrees with her completely in relation to that. On the question of veterans' protection, under the last government, they passed legislation which was struck down, leaving our veterans utterly exposed. We're putting in place proper measures to protect them.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister wants to talk about leadership. Three of his own cabinet ministers told the Times on Saturday that he needed to learn from me.
Order! I'll tell you now, I'm having no more. Do we understand each other? Thank you. Kemi Badenoch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. But back to the national interest. Instead of acting in it, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister just tries to get through the day. On the Chinese spy hub embassy, he's too weak. On Chagos, he's too weak. On funding for the armed forces, he's too weak. On protecting our veterans from prosecution, he's too weak. Yes. Mr. Speaker, I will support the Prime Minister when he does the right thing. But time after time, this Prime Minister has done the wrong thing for our country. Isn't the truth that he is too weak to stand up for our national interests?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I've spent the week working with our NATO allies to protect our national security and ensure we have unity in NATO. That's a matter of national importance. She's utterly failed to rise to the occasion and show the solidarity she could have shown in this House. She spent the week trying to hold together what's left of the Tory party. And she says I should learn from her. She has no judgment. Only a week ago, she was saying in relation to Greenland, she shrugged and said it's some second-order issue. Terrible judgment. Then she flip-flopped with 3 different positions in 10 days on Greenland. She said Liz Truss's mini-budget was 100% right. She said last week she was 100% confident there'll be no more defections just before the latest defection. I'm beginning to think her judgment isn't 100% reliable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. NHS waiting lists in Birmingham are down by almost a quarter under Labour and still falling. That's more than 28,000 people no longer stuck waiting for essential treatment. Yes, there are challenges still, but they are being addressed and progress is being made. Does he agree that this progress must be sustained, including by reducing ambulance waiting times?
Minister. I'm pleased to confirm, Mr. Speaker, that last week saw the second biggest fall in NHS waiting times for 15 years. Waiting lists down by more than 300,000, recruitment of GPs an extra 2,900, and ambulances are arriving nearly 15 minutes faster this winter than they were last year. There is much more to do. That's why we're delivering the biggest upgrade to our ambulance fleet for many years. That progress has been made possible by Labour's decisions that were opposed by the parties opposite.
Leader of the Liberal Democrats, Ed Davey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We remember how Tony Blair ignored warnings from these benches and tied himself to an unpopular American president and a disastrous foreign policy, while close allies like Canada and France looked on in horror. With Donald Trump increasingly acting like a crime boss running a protection racket, threatening to smash up our economy unless he gets his hands on Greenland, will the Prime Minister avoid Blair's historic mistake, take our advice this time, and join Prime Minister Carney and President Macron in standing up far more strongly to President Trump?
Prime Minister.
Well, he clearly isn't listening. I said I will not yield on the principles and values that I uphold, this country upholds, in relation to the future of Greenland. But the relationship with the US matters, especially on defence, security and intelligence and nuclear capability, also on trade and prosperity. Mr. Speaker, whilst he's trying to get sound bites, we mustn't forget a war is raging in Europe. It is in its 4th year. The Russians are raining bombs down on Ukrainian civilians day and night. Temperatures were -20 in Kyiv last night. 60% is without power. People are erecting tents to keep themselves warm. We have to work with our allies, including the US, on security guarantees to make sure we can do what we must do in relation to Ukraine. Now, that does not mean we agree with the US on everything, and I've been absolutely clear on my position on Greenland and my position on tariffs, but it is foolhardy to think that we should rip up our relationship with the US, abandon Ukraine, and so many other things that are important to our defence, security and intelligence.
Of course, we're not arguing that, Mr. Speaker. We're arguing he follows France and Canada, our close allies. But here's one thing that we can agree on, Mr. Speaker, that the UK strengthens our defensive capabilities, like the Prime Minister said earlier. But, Mr. Speaker, the government is going far too slow in investing in our defensive industries. It hasn't even published the defence investment plan that was promised last autumn. And that delay is putting critical industries like helicopter manufacturing based in Yeovil at risk. Putin is waging a war in Europe. Trump is threatening to undermine NATO. We have to rearm fast. So why won't the Prime Minister just get on with buying great British helicopters made in the West Country?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that's about the cheer across the whole country. Mr. Speaker, we are increasing defence spend to the biggest spend since the last Labour government. We are doing that because of the decisions we took at the budget in relation to the money that's available. He wants more money on defence spending. He wants it faster. What did he do at the budget? Did he stand up and say, I support this? No, he voted against it, against the measures necessary to carry out the upgrade.
Steve Yem.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sadly, on Christmas Day, my constituent Beryl Barrett passed away after tragically falling into an unrepaired pothole, and I'm sure the whole House will wish to share my condolences with the family. In my constituency of Mansfield, there are literally thousands of potholes in our roads which Notts County Council are failing to repair. Does the Prime Minister agree with me that it's time the Council took action to repair our roads? And will he meet with Beryl's family so that we can work together to ensure that no more accidents like this happen again?
Prime Minister.
Can I send my deepest sympathies to Beryl's family, and I will make sure the Roads Minister meets the family at the earliest opportunity. Mr. Speaker, it shows why tackling potholes really matters. We're investing £2 billion in East Midlands to fix the roads and improve local transport. We're also putting in place tough new standards so that councils must prove they're fixing roads properly. And I'm pleased many excellent Labour councils across the country are leading by example.
Dr. Ellie Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For decades, our rivers, lakes and seas have paid the price of a failing system, so the Water White Paper is a welcome first step in beginning to set things right. But there's a glaring gap. Agricultural pollution contributes 40% of the pollution in our waterways, but merits only one single page in this white paper. Can the PM tell me why on earth this is the case, and when he will start working with farmers to support river-friendly farming practices and treat agricultural pollution as seriously as sewage pollution?
Prime Minister.
We inherited a real mess on water, and we're taking the most effective and far-reaching measures to deal with it. But I have to say, as someone who stood to lead her party, I wonder what she makes of how her leader is responding to this global uncertainty. Because what he's saying is this is the time, this is the moment to withdraw from NATO. This is the time to kick the US out of our military bases. This is the time to negotiate, hear this, with Putin to give up our nuclear deterrent. I'm sure Putin will be very quick on the line for that one. It's as reckless and irresponsible as their plan to legalise heroin and crack cocaine. That's the Green Party now, high on drugs, soft on Putin.
Can I just say, we don't ask opposition questions. They're coming to the Prime Minister, not the other way around. Right, let us move on. Douglas McAllister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. West Dunbartonshire is set to benefit from record UK Labour government investment. £60 million of local growth funding just announced for the Glasgow City region, to add to the £20 million for Dumbarton Town Centre regeneration. Add to that the £20 million Pride in Place funding for my hometown of Clydebank, and the £1.5 million immediate impact funding. Does the Prime Minister agree with me that this is in stark contrast to the SNP, who abandoned our communities, and demonstrates the difference a Labour government makes to West Dunbartonshire and to Scotland?
Well, I'm very pleased, Mr. Speaker, we're backing his hometown of Clydebank with £20 million of Pride in Place funding. And just this week we hosted a reception meeting people working hard to change their neighbourhoods across the whole of the United Kingdom. That's Labour delivering on national renewal. And as he rightly says, compare that to the SNP, more interested in squabbling over independence than using a record settlement to fix Scotland's public services.
Robin Swan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Challenging economic and activity and supporting the vulnerable across the country is something that we all want to address. So would you be surprised to learn that in Northern Ireland around 11,000 people previously supported by the UK Shared Prosperity funding programmes will see those programmes cut dramatically, compounded with 400 job losses? So can I ask the Prime Minister, does he support those cuts of those vital programmes? And will he arrange an urgent meeting for me with the relevant decision maker in government and the organisations who have been impacted, so that these changes and challenges can be resolved?
Prime Minister.
We've delivered a record settlement for Northern Ireland in the budget to strengthen public services and to kick-start growth. And the Local Growth Fund, designed actually in partnership with the Executive, will see £45 million every year to support local growth. but I'm very happy to make sure that ministers meet him to discuss the particular concerns that he has.
Christensen.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. 1.5 million women in the UK live with endometriosis, which is a painful and life-changing condition. As chair of the Endometriosis APPG, I met Jessica Smith and Endo Warriors West Lothian to discuss their campaigns for a national endometriosis registry to capture and audit diagnosis, treatment and outcomes. Will he join me to commend the work of Jessica, Endo Warriors West Lothian and Endometriosis UK, and will he meet with me to discuss creating a registry to improve the lives of women living with endometriosis?
Prime Minister. Well, let me pay tribute to her and all women and others who are campaigning on these vitally important issues. Far too many women are left waiting in serious pain for care, and that's why we're investing £8 million in research on diagnosis, treatment and pain management. I know the Minister for Women's Health will be keen to talk to her about her proposals and the issues, and I thank her for raising it.
Gregory Campbell.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I have a constituent not yet 30 years old, a civil servant who's just been diagnosed with a terminal illness. She has been told she has a very short time to live. Because of her condition, she was given a retirement date, which was just last week. She has not received notification of any actual pension payment and has spent long hours trying to contact Capita. HMRC has claimed that all outstanding documentation has been supplied to Capita in November. I've written to the Chancellor, contacted the MP hotline and Capita. It still remains unresolved. Can the Prime Minister, along with the Chancellor, help to get this action resolved immediately?
Prime Minister.
Can I thank him for raising this case, and I'm truly sorry to hear about his constituent. If he wouldn't mind following up with the details of the case, I will make sure that it's dealt with urgently on behalf of his constituent.
Mr Speaker, yesterday I welcomed Bermondsey PC Kevin Webster to Parliament after his recognition as Met's PC of the Year 2025. Will the Prime Minister commend Kevin for his local work and that of Southwark Labour Council's amazing nighttime antisocial behaviour team? Will he tell us when they'll have new powers under the Crime and Policing Bill? And will he remind the Met that its access standards require all local officers like Kevin to be a maximum 20-minute walk from their ward, a policy currently going unmet in Rotherhithe?
Prime Minister.
Can I congratulate Kevin and thank police across our country working hard to protect our communities? The party opposite decimated local policing and we're restoring it. There will be 3,000 more neighbourhood police on our streets by spring, an example of the change people will feel this year. Our Crime and Policing Bill will give officers more powers to tackle knife crime, shoplifting and antisocial behaviour. I want officers to have those powers as swiftly as possible. The Tories and Reform voted against them.
Upper Blunder.
My constituents in Chester South and Eddisbury are deeply concerned by proposed cuts to police community support officers across Cheshire. The Labour Police and Crime Commissioner, Dan Price, was silent on this issue, seemingly content to see numbers slashed across the county until residents and local MPs spoke out. Now he seeks to present himself as campaigning to save PCSOs, whilst proposing to substantially increase the precept, all at the same time as planning to increase spending on his office by £513,000 next year. Does the Prime Minister agree that this represents a failure of leadership and that that money would be far better spent increasing PCSOs on our streets?
Prime Minister.
This comes from the party that broke our criminal justice system, just like the fact they broke our economy and our NHS. They hollowed out local policing. We're restoring it. There will be 3,000 new officers in spring of this year.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The thug in the White House has shown that he doesn't listen to grovelling or sycophancy. He'll continue to harm British interests, no matter how compliant we are, and, like all bullies, he will always find the weakest link. Will the Prime Minister close ranks with our European allies and commit to retaliatory tariffs?
Well said. Prime Minister. Mr Speaker, I've made our position clear. I've set out my principles. I'm not going to yield on those principles. But as I said on Monday, of course we need to protect our national interest, and we will always protect our national interest. But simply hurtling at the first opportunity into a trade war is going to hurt working people and businesses across the country. And that is why I'm working hard to make sure we do not get to that point, and I'll continue to act in the national interest.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now, the Prime Minister may be aware that my local authority in the East Riding of Yorkshire is the lowest funded per pupil for children with special educational needs and disabilities, and that his local authority in Camden is the highest, an inequality he has repeatedly pledged to end. Well, Mr. Speaker, the results are in. Next year, children in my local area will receive just under £1,000. Children in his local area will receive over £3,800. The gap is getting wider. So can the Prime Minister explain to the House why he thinks children in my constituency are worth so much less than the children in his?
We're applying their formula, the one that you put in place in government. We're changing it. Special educational needs is probably raised with me more than any other issue in this House. We're proposing reforms. The issue he's highlighted, the problem he's highlighted...
Order. Sorry, Prime Minister. Mr Holden, as Shadow Secretary of Transport, you'll begin the express train and it'll be out of here.
I think he may be making himself the next candidate for the Thursday defection, because it's those... oh, maybe it's someone else. Those that shout loudest end up over there. And I thank Reform are supporting our recycling moves, because soon they're going to be a party entirely made up of...
Order. Prime Minister. Mr Holden, I think you need to leave. No. Prime Minister. OK, Rebecca Long-Bailey.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Police officers in Greater Manchester are facing exceptional pressures as they work to keep our communities safe from horrific terror threats, hate crime, organised crime and regular mass large-scale protests. But despite this, GMP received the second lowest percentage funding increase of any police force under the provisional settlement, leaving it £12 million worse off. Now, I know the Prime Minister will share my concerns, so will he urgently work with the GM Mayor, Deputy, myself and Greater Manchester MPs to ensure that GMP has the funding it truly needs to keep our communities safe?
Here. Prime Minister.
Can I thank her and say I was humbled to visit Greater Manchester Police after the Heaton Park synagogue attack. The professionalism and bravery that they showed was remarkable. Mr Speaker, we've boosted total police funding, and Greater Manchester will receive up to £902 million, an increase of over £31 million. I want to reassure my honourable friend we'll continue to work with her and local leaders to make our streets safe.
Matthew.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My constituency of Melksham and Devizes does not have a minor injuries unit, leaving many to travel far afield to Bath or Swindon to access A&E services. Would the PM please meet with me to discuss the need for an expanded hospital provision in my constituency? Thank you.
Prime Minister.
Thank him for raising this on behalf of his constituents. I will make sure he gets the meeting with the relevant minister to talk through his particular concerns so that we can seek to address them.
Jasmine Qureshi.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. After 14 years of Conservative austerity, councils are finally getting the support they need to deliver for residents. In my constituency of Bolton South and Walkden, under the leadership of Councillor Nick Peel in Bolton and Mayor Paul Dennett in Salford, increased funding is being turned into restoring frontline services, investment in town centres and support for families. Does the Prime Minister agree that the councils need serious leadership and long-term funding certainty to deliver, not short-term protest politics that put services at risk? And will he commit to continuing that support?
Prime Minister.
Well, I thank you for a question. Labour's boosting funding for councils that were chronically underfunded by the party opposite. I pay tribute to Labour councils delivering results for her community in stark contrast the division and chaos we've seen from reform councils wherever they've been elected.
Katie Lamb.
Tens of thousands of people across Kent and Sussex were without running water last week. While the response of South East Water was shambolic, the Staplehurst Emergency Help Team got a bottled water supplier, set up a collection station and delivered water to vulnerable people. Using only volunteers, they supported local people, businesses, farms and care homes with 20,000 bottles of water. Does the Prime Minister think, as I do, that South East Water should be ashamed to be schooled in crisis response by the volunteers of the Staplehurst Emergency Help Team? Yes. And has he, like many of my constituents and many of our colleagues, lost confidence in South East Water's Chief Executive?
Prime Minister.
Well, I thank you for raising. The situation is completely unacceptable, and we welcome Ofwat's investigation into the company. That is the right thing. The Environment Secretary met company bosses last week to stress the need for accountability, and ministers are continuing to chair daily meetings. But it is totally unacceptable and it needs to be fixed.
Lee Barron.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For too long, many of my constituents in Corby and East Northamptonshire have not had access to good, secure, well-paid jobs. We made a commitment in our manifesto that we would change that. You can't grow an economy based on insecure work, where from one week to the next, somebody doesn't know how many hours they're going to work or how much money they'll be paid. Would the Prime Minister agree with me that all workers should have the hours that they actually work reflected in their contracts so that we can give all working people the security to plan their finances, the security to plan their lives and the security to build a future for themselves and their family?
Prime Minister.
Well, I'm proud of this Labour government delivering the biggest upgrade to workers' rights in a generation. And we're ending exploitative zero-hour contracts, ending unscrupulous fire and rehire practices, plus parental leave and sick pay. And workers will benefit from those rights in April, Mr. Speaker, and they should never forget that Reform and the Tories opposed every single one of them.
Robert Jenrick.
Mr. Speaker, one of the last meetings that I took as Shadow Justice Secretary was with the parents of Lenny Scott. Lenny Scott was an exceptionally brave prison officer. He uncovered corruption in his prison. He left the service, and years later he was hunted down and brutally murdered. Because he died after leaving active service, there was never any compensation paid to the children that he left behind. I know the Prime Minister would want to right this wrong. I wrote to the Justice Secretary privately after I discovered this, and I should say his parents never asked for any support. Would the Prime Minister correct this, ensure that this brave man's children have the support that they need as they grow up without the father that they deserved, and join me in thanking all the brave men and women who serve us in our prison service?
Prime Minister.
Well, I thank him for raising this, and I will make sure that it is looked into as a matter of urgency, given the circumstances he's set out.
Fred Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I strongly welcome the government's decision to consult on introducing a social media ban for under-16s. Something, Mr. Speaker, that the Tories didn't do in office, and they didn't even support until last week. But the average 12-year-old now spends 29 hours a week on a smartphone, whilst more than 500 children a day are being referred to mental health services for anxiety. These stats are not unrelated. Parents, teachers and members across these benches can see the damage that social media is doing to our young, developing minds every single day. Does the Prime Minister agree that the scale of harm demands swift action and that this consultation must lead to timely decisions?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this is an issue of real concern to parents. As a father of two teenage children, I know just how much concern it is. That is why we will have a consultation to look at expert and international evidence to get this right, and we will respond by the summer. And that includes looking at the question of the age that children can access social media and restriction on addictive features. I'm also concerned, as is the Education Secretary, about the screen time use for those under the age of 5. So we'll look at all of those issues and make sure that Ofsted checks enforcement of bans during schools.
Mr. Speaker, the Bertie Arms is a fantastic family pub, but because of the Chancellor's tax raid on local business, they face a 2,000% increase in their business rates by 2029. That means the Treasury will lose £200,000 in tax take, and Uffington will lose the heart of its community. Now, the Prime Minister promised not to put up taxes on working people, so how does he justify a 2,000% tax attack on working family businesses like this pub?
Prime Minister. Well, Mr. Speaker, we're working with the sector to put in the necessary support, but I would remind her that 7,000 pubs closed on their watch, and she didn't say a word about it.
Alice MacDonald.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Norfolk is a dental desert, causing real suffering for my constituents. I welcome government action so far, including 21,000 extra urgent emergency appointments. But we are the only region without a dental school. The University of East Anglia is ready to open one. So could the Prime Minister set out what more we will do as a government to tackle the dentistry crisis, and will he back our calls for a new dental school in our region?
Prime Minister.
Well, since day one, she's fought for her constituents on this issue, and I pay tribute to her in relation to that. I agree the University of East Anglia would be an excellent candidate for any additional funded dentistry places available in the future. Mr. Speaker, we're also reforming contracts and making sure dentists spend more time working in the NHS to ring thousands of extra appointments to fix the failure that we were left with.
Final question, Gideon Amos.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Children with disabilities and special educational needs in Somerset will be severely hit if the government goes ahead with removing the remoteness uplift from those authorities. Will the government commit to ensuring that those councils with the largest land area in the country, of which Somerset is one, are properly reimbursed for the cost of remoteness so that children in my Taunton and Wellington constituency do not suffer as a result?
Prime Minister.
Well, we do understand the challenges in rural communities, and we'll look at that as part of the work we're doing on reform.
That completes Prime Minister's questions. Let the front benches change over. Point 4.